Yeah, too huge.
Did you go in my backyard?
Yeah, I'll knock on the door.
Do not touch me. Do not touch me. What is wrong with you? And I will still stand here. How dare he push me on my property?
A police officer opened a closed gate, walked into a man's backyard with no warrant, and then put his hands on that man on his own property. And when it was finished, that officer got into his patrol car and drove away. No handcuffs, no charges, nothing happened to him. Now I want you to think about something. If you opened a stranger's gate, walked into their backyard, and shoved them on their own land, where would you be sitting tonight? You would be in a holding cell. I spent 22 years carrying a badge, patrol and field training, and I am telling you right now, this one is not close. So sit with me for the next few minutes because I'm going to walk you through every single line this officer crossed, and I'm going to show you the exact moment a routine noise call turned into a federal civil rights problem. Let me set the scene for you because the setup matters. It is Memorial Day. A man named Sean Paul Reyes, who runs the channel Long Island Audit, is in the backyard of his own home in Selden, New York, out in Suffolk County. He is having a barbecue. Family, friends, food, music, a normal American holiday. And a Suffolk County police officer, badge number 7992, last name Ahmed, rolls up on what he later says was a complaint about loud music, a noise complaint. Hold on to that because the entire justification for everything that follows rests on those two words, loud music.
Hey, what are you doing?
So we came in for the loud music, and neighbors complaining. It's too loud, you know. You have something can you lower it down a little, or? Because I saw that these are too huge. You know?
Did you go in my backyard?
Yeah, I'll knock on the door. I'll ring you 3 times. Nobody's there. You don't even.
What is your name and badge number?
Officer Ahmad 7992.
Okay, Ahmad. So you went into my backyard.
Yeah, open the door and I see who the residents were.
Now here's the part where I am going to do something you might not expect from a retired cop reacting to one of these. I am going to defend the officer for about 30 seconds, because that is what an honest breakdown looks like. When that officer pulled up and walked to the front door, he was completely within his rights. There is a legal idea called the knock and talk. The Supreme Court spelled it out in a case called Kentucky versus King. Any citizen in this country, the mailman, a neighbor, a Girl Scout selling cookies, has an implied license to walk up your front path, knock on your door, and wait a reasonable moment for an answer. A police officer has that same license. So when Officer Ahmed walked up to that front door and knocked, he did nothing wrong. If a neighbor really did call about the noise, he had every reason to go knock and ask them to turn it down. That is good policing. That is the job. Here is the problem. He knocked and nobody answered. And that is the exact moment this officer had a decision to make, and he made the wrong one. Because the knock and talk has a hard edge to it, and every academy in this country teaches that edge. The implied license to approach a home ends at the front door and the normal path a visitor would use. It does not extend 1 inch further. The Supreme Court said this in plain language in a case called Florida versus Jardines. The front porch, the walkway, the path to your door, that is fair game for any visitor, including a cop. But the second an officer steps off that path to go snooping around the sides and the back of your house, he is no longer a visitor. He is conducting a search. And a search of the area around your home requires a warrant, or it requires one of the narrow emergency exceptions. A noise complaint is neither. So what did Officer Ahmed do when nobody answered the front door? He walked around the left side of the house, roughly 70 feet by Reyes's account from that front door. And he came to a gate, not an open gate, a closed gate, a gate that self-closes, a gate with a no trespassing sign posted on the property. And he opened it, and he walked into the fenced backyard, where a family was having a cookout.
Back off my property.
Playing loud music.
You are trespassing. You are trespassing. You are trespassing. You are trespassing. Yes. You see the sign says no trespassing?
Yeah.
You are trespassing on my property, and you went behind my closed gate. So you are trespassing.
It's open.
It's not an open gate. No, it's not.
There's
It
no lock on it.
self-closes.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it has a lock on it.
What's going
It's
on.
clearly
Loud
it's
music good,
clearly
there's nobody
intended to
here,
enclosed in a manner. Do you know the
I'm
law?
gonna call my supervisor. It's
Enclosed
gonna be
in a manner. Yeah. Get off the property.
I want you to understand in Fourth Amendment terms what that gate is. Lawyers and judges use a word for the area immediately around your home. They call it the curtilage. And the curtilage gets the very same constitutional protection as the inside of your living room. The courts even have a test for it from a case called United States versus Dunn. How close is it to the home? Is it inside an enclosure? What is it used for? And what steps did the owner take to keep it private? Now look at this yard through that test. A fence, a gate that closes itself, a posted no trespassing sign, a family using it as a private space. That is not a gray area, folks. That is about as textbook a piece of protected curtilage as you will ever see. That officer did not wander into a gray area. He opened a marked, closed gate and stepped into the single most protected space outside the four walls of that house. And remember that gate, because we are going to come back to it. The gate is the whole case.
3 times, nobody
Get off my
cares.
property.
What did you say?
Get off my property.
Get off your property?
Get off my property now.
Okay, that's how you're gonna do it?
Get off my property.
Gonna show some ID? Show me some ID.
No, get off of my property. You just
Here.
illegally entered my
Nobody illegally
backyard.
entered. I
Yes, you
came
did.
in-
You
I
cannot
came
come
in-
into my backyard. Back up.
came in for
I
the
need you to back
violation.
up.
Put your finger
Back
down.
up.
Put your finger
Back
down.
up.
Put
You're
your
coming
finger down.
closer to me. Look how close you are to me.
Put your finger down.
Back up. Call your supervisor over here.
Yeah, my...
Now I can already hear some of you. Sergeant, he was just checking on a noise complaint. He was doing his due diligence. Let me kill that one right now, because the Supreme Court already did. There used to be this fuzzy idea that police had a general community caretaking power, that they could poke around to make sure everything was okay. In a case called Caniglia versus Strom, decided just a few years ago, the justices looked at that idea as applied to your home, and they rejected it 9-0. Unanimous. There is no free-floating right for an officer to enter your home or your curtilage without a warrant just because he wants to make sure things are fine. And think about what the supposed emergency even was here. Loud music. At 5:30 in the afternoon. On Memorial Day. Nobody was screaming. Nobody called about a fight or a gunshot or a person in danger. A neighbor did not like the volume of a barbecue. That is not an emergency. That does not let you breach a fence. Full stop. So that is the trespass.
Suppose I'm gonna come in a second.
Call your
right?
supervisor.
Yeah,
Back
he's gonna
up.
come.
Back up.
Meanwhile,
You are on
I
my
need the
property.
ID. I need
You
the
are on
ID.
my property.
You have your ID with you or no?
You're on my property.
What's your name?
You're on my property.
What's your name?
Call your supervisor here.
Yeah, I'm here for a reason.
Call your supervisor here.
What's your first and last name?
Call your supervisor over here.
Are you gonna give me your first and last name or no?
Call your supervisor over here.
He's gonna come. You have your ID with you or no?
I haven't broken the law.
You haven't broken the law?
I have not broken the law, no. And unless
Okay.
you better figure out who you're talking to, because I know the law and you went into my backyard. We have a problem. Get off of my property
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
Get off of my property.
I'm calling the supervisor. I'm coming back right now.
Great.
Stay
Get off my property. No, I'm gonna escort you.
And if the video ended there, it would already be a clean Fourth Amendment violation. But it does not end there. Because what this officer does when the homeowner finally comes outside is honestly the part that should bother you the most. So watch his hands. Reyes finds out from his terrified family that there is a police officer in the backyard. He starts recording, and he meets the officer out front. And he is not calm, and I am not going to pretend he is. He is angry. It is his property, his family, his holiday, and a cop just walked through his gate. He tells the officer repeatedly, clearly, "Get off my property." And here is where the badge stops protecting Officer Ahmed and starts indicting him. Because at this point, the officer has no crime. He has a noise complaint that he cannot even substantiate because, as Reyes points out, you can barely hear the music on the very cameras the officer is standing in front of. He has no probable cause. He has no warrant. He has a homeowner lawfully ordering a trespasser off his land. And instead of leaving, the officer demands identification. ID, ID, ID. Now let me teach you something, because this is the heart of it. An officer cannot demand your ID just because he is annoyed or just because he wants it. In New York, to compel someone to identify themselves, an officer needs reasonable suspicion that that person is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a crime. Reasonable suspicion, specific facts, not a hunch, not attitude, and standing in your own backyard on a holiday is not a crime. So when Reyes said no, he was not being difficult. He was standing on solid legal ground. The officer had no lawful basis to order that ID, and the citizen has every right to decline.
You are
Do you really
trespassing.
know what you're talking
Get
about,
off of
trespassing?
my property.
I'm gonna go back.
I am telling you,
I'm
I'm
gonna be
ordering
back.
you off of my property.
gonna be back.
I'm ordering you off of my property. Get off of my property. I haven't broken the law. You, officer, are breaking the law.
Okay.
You couldn't even hear my music from outside. Couldn't even hear it. It's all on video.
Okay.
It was on, right? When I came out, right? Yeah, take down whatever license plate you want, but you need to get off my property. Get off my property right now.
And then it gets physical. Reyes says the officer pushed him several times in the chest and then smacked his hand away. Now I want to be straight with you, because that is the only way this channel works. I have not seen this officer's body camera yet, and neither have you. The cleanest wide shot of that contact is not on the phone. But listen to the audio, because audio does not lie about timing. You hear Reyes say in real time, "Do not touch me." You hear him say, "You keep putting your hands on me." You hear him say, "How dare you push me on my property?" That is a man reacting to contact as it happens, not a man inventing a story afterward. And here is the standard every officer in America is judged by when he puts hands on someone. It comes from Graham versus Connor. Was the force objectively reasonable given the threat? So ask yourself, what was the threat? A homeowner on his own land who committed no crime, who is not being lawfully detained, telling a trespasser to leave. There is no use of force justification there. None. You do not get to shove a man for the crime of standing on the property you walked onto uninvited.
Don't touch me. Do not touch me. What is wrong with you? Get off of my property. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. I'm not touching you, but you keep putting your hands on me. Are you kidding me?
You're walking into it.
Because I'm escorting you off of my property.
You're not escorting me anywhere.
Get off of my property. Yeah, get your supervisor over here. How dare you? How dare you? And I will still stand here. How dare he push me on my property?
So let me tell you what should have happened, because this is the part of the job I trained rookies on for years. You get a noise complaint. You walk up, you knock, nobody answers. You take a breath, and you make a note in your log that you responded and got no answer, and you clear the call. Maybe you swing back in an hour. Maybe dispatch calls the complainant back. What you do not do, ever, is open a closed gate and walk into a family's fenced backyard over the volume of a barbecue. And if for some reason you genuinely believed someone was in danger, you do not solo breach a private yard. You call it in. You request a supervisor. You document your reasonable belief. This officer did none of that. He took the single most aggressive option available, and it was not remotely necessary. Now, I told you to stay with me because what happens next is almost worse than the yard. After the shove, after all of it, Reyes asks for a supervisor, and the officer says he will go get one. And then he gets in his car, runs the license plate, talks to somebody on his phone, and drives off. He just leaves.
Look at him. Now he's leaving like the coward he is. Look at him. Running away like a coward. Oh, no, 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 no.
No supervisor, no resolution. So Reyes drives himself down to the 6th precinct to file a complaint, and he sits down with a sergeant, and listen to how that sergeant handles it.
If he was trying to figure out what's going on, we can't just always just vacate something if we feel threatened or scared, if we're still trying to figure out.
Your feelings have nothing to do with my property.
Every single thing Reyes describes, the sergeant has a maybe. Maybe the music was loud. Maybe a neighbor works nights. Maybe the officer was just trying to figure things out. Maybe, maybe, maybe. He minimizes it at every turn and keeps saying, well, I have to see the body camera footage. And here's the thing. As a supervisor, that last part is actually correct. You should review the body camera before you make a final ruling. But there is a tone to it. There is a difference between, I need to review the footage before I act, and I'm going to explain away everything this citizen just told me. One is procedure. The other is covering for your guy. And 22 years in, I know the difference when I hear it. A good supervisor, hearing that an officer entered a fenced backyard with no warrant and put hands on a homeowner, gets concerned. Fast. Because he knows exactly what that footage is going to cost the department. Which brings me to the part that ties this whole thing together.
Front yard. It's just from my front door, actually. You know what? But as I was driving over here, I was thinking about it. You notice what I didn't do? You know how I didn't spit in the officer's face? How I didn't pull a gun on him? How I didn't assault him? But the officer came to my property, went past my gate, assaulted me. And he wasn't arrested, right? But I was arrested in Connecticut. This makes no sense. This is why I'm so tired.
Reyes makes a point standing outside that precinct that I cannot improve on. He did not curse the officer out. He did not pull a weapon. He did not lay a hand on anyone. He stood on his own property and told a man to leave. And that man, the officer, trespassed, put hands on him, and drove away free. Meanwhile, this same auditor was arrested in Connecticut for far less than what that officer just did. Let that sit. The citizen gets cuffed. The cop, who committed the actual trespass and the actual unwanted contact, gets to drive home. That is the double standard this entire community exists to expose. And on this video, you can see it with your own eyes. So where does this go? As of right now, no lawsuit has been filed. And I am not going to put a fake number on your screen and insult you. But Reyes says on camera that he is taking this to federal court, to the district attorney, and to internal affairs. And I will tell you, as someone who has watched a lot of these end, This is the kind of fact pattern that costs the city real money. A clean curtilage violation under Jardines, a unanimous Supreme Court slamming the door on the caretaking excuse, and an unjustified use of force on a homeowner. That is the recipe that strips an officer of qualified immunity and writes a settlement check. That body camera footage is not Reyes's problem anymore. It is Officer Ahmed's problem, and it is Suffolk County's problem. So let me leave you with this. I backed this officer for the first 30 seconds when he was doing his job at the front door. I will not back him for 1 second after he opened that gate, because the badge is not a key to your backyard, and being annoyed is not probable cause. Now I want to hear from you. If a citizen had opened that gate, walked into a cop's backyard, and shoved him, would that citizen be free tonight? You already know the answer. So tell me this in the comments. Would your department have backed this officer, or would they have hung him out to dry? I read every one of these. Stay safe out there.